So we're working on the flooring for the 118 wheelbase Promaster van. Now it already came with a composite flooring, which is kind of, I don't know, some plasticky wood composite, but it looks like from the factory they glued it down. So it doesn't really seem to be easily removable. But even then I don't feel that half an inch gives me enough support to screw something into without accidentally going through the steel. And one of the things that we're trying to do with this van is utilize as many of the existing holes or as much of the existing van as we can without drilling and creating potential rust and problem areas by drilling any more than we need to. And also, to some degree, we want this construction to be removable to access anything in case in future there's some sort of, I don't know, a dent, something that needs to be fixed, replaced. So we actually want things to be able to be removed to some degree. But right now we're working on the flooring, so we couldn't remove the existing flooring to use it as a template. So we made a paper one. We have this roll of blue paper that we happen to have for our artwork stuff. And so we took it in the van and just gently laid it down and cut as best as we could with a little blade, like a Stanley knife blade. And then in areas where we need to make adjustments, we put the tape on it. And until we finally came up with a working paper template. Now, one of the important things to get right is the center holes, which you can see here where we marked there's two D-ring cups in the floor that we'll show you later. It's important to get the center of those holes right because that's actually what we're going to use for holding the floor down. So the floor is going to be split in two halves, right down the middle. And the way we're doing ours is we're going to have like a double bed for me and my wife across the width of the van. And because there's not much room in the 118 wheelbase, it's a lot less than the 136. So we actually used our template to cut the first piece of wood out, and then we took it outside and test fitted it, and it fitted awesomely, very awesome. Then we flipped it in the van to see if we could safely mirror it. And it turns out that we can mirror it. There's just a couple of areas that will need adjustment in the field, like along the cut here. But that's not important right now because we'll make those minor adjustments. Along the outer, where the wheel hub is, and all the other little curves and fancy bends or cuts you see here, they're all mirrored. They mirror perfectly, and this piece of paper doesn't want to stay rolled up. So basically now we've made sure that we have a top and a bottom because we've already pre-varnished the bottom. It's winter outside, so we're having trouble working on the van because it's been 5 degrees, -4 degrees, -10 degrees. So we have this little batch yesterday, next 2 days where it's actually workable temperature. So we pre-varnished the bottom of the boards. This is just sand apply from, say, a Home Depot. It's not marine grade or anything. And the way that we've decided to do it right now is it's 65 inches long, and essentially the maximum width of the van is on average 73 inches. So we've made the split down the middle exactly 36.5. So right now you've got 65 inches long by 36.5 wide. And we've made sure we double check the mirroring, make sure we don't accidentally cut two the same. Just make sure you lay it out properly, because if you flip and cut it the wrong way, you're going to end up with two pieces the same and you're not going to be able to fit them in the van. So we've taken extra precautions to make sure that we have everything flipped and laid out properly. So we used the first cut that was a perfect fit as a template to mark around all the edges where the cuts are going to be on the new piece of plywood. The top one here that's face up is actually the passenger side. The one that we're about to cut that's on the bottom is the driver's side. we'll remove this top piece of wood. For this part of it, we're just using a jigsaw with a skinny blade, for lack of a better description, that allows us to go around corners easily. Like the bigger, wider, fatter blades, you can't turn corners with as easily, and there's going to be a lot of corner cuts on this little cut. So here we go, we're about to cut it all out. Alright, so we've got all the side panels, the lower side panels on the van. Again, it's the 118 wheelbase WB Promaster you're looking at, in case this is the first part of the video you're watching. We've got this 3/4 plywood that we've put on top of the existing thin composite flooring. What we did was, I thought I could get away with a 73-inch total spread across there, and it turned out that it was about a saw blade too thick. So after we test fitted the two panels, they wouldn't quite squeeze down in the middle here because it's just the thickness of a saw blade. So we took one out and shaved the saw blade thickness off one end, and now they fit perfectly. We also decided, because we really only need 60 inches for the bed's going to go in crossways, double bed. We only really need 60 inches, so I had 65 because I need some mechanism for stopping the pull-out drawers from just sliding out while we're driving, so I need to have more than the 60. So we had 65 originally, now we've cut it back to 63. So essentially what you got here is you essentially got two pieces of 3/4 plywood cut to 63 inches in the length and 36.5 width, and with just a blade thickness taken off one, so they actually slid down flush. So essentially 32 3/4 would be the maximum width you'll fit in there. So then we made the paper template that we showed you in the basement, and it worked out awesome. It worked out awesome that we mirrored it. Then we used the paper template also to line up these little holes. There's 4 D-ring shackles that we're going to bring up through the floor, and that's actually what we're going to use to hold down this plywood. And essentially this plywood is just for the bed, and underneath the bed will be 2 big pull-out drawers, 48 inches in depth, and one will be the kitchenette on this side, and the other one will be a big 32-inch wide drawer where we can have the Yeti cooler and pull that out. We're not really going to have a refrigerator or anything in here. This is just a, for lack of a better description, this is a upgraded tent setup, but with cooking, sleeping, and driving, and a few other benefits. So we drilled the 4 holes. They line up beautifully. We drilled an oversized hole, about 3/4 inch hole, so that for any little misalignment, that we'll get the bolt in there without having to re-drill and re-drill and re-drill. Also, when we did all the cutting with the jigsaw or the saws, we did it with the face down, and we did that so that if the saw tries to pull up at the edges and chip the edges, when you've got it face down, you're actually pulling up, so the surface will look fine. If you're going to chip anything, we'd be essentially chipping the bottom edge, which is the unseen edge. So for as much as what you can, work with the face surface down when you're cutting with saws, jigsaws or whatever, and you'll keep all your edges and everything nice and beautiful without peeling and lifting at the edges. We also took a little orbital sander, and we just put a slight angle on all the edges just to take that sharp edge off, and also give you less of an edge to pick up on to lift and peel the edges as you work on the job. So what we're about to do now, we do have some drawings, so it's not exactly out of our head. I have done some drawings, but we're still designing a little bit on the fly. But we have a couple of drawings of things I worked out, and we'll explain them as we go along. But the next step now is to start to cut the wood to lay out the framework for the bed. And I'm going to have to jiggle a little bit as I go, because the design isn't 100% perfectly, it's still partly in my head, so there'll be a little bit of guesswork and figuring it out as we go. But that's the next step, is we're going to start cutting all the stuff to actually make the framework for the bed and huge pull-out drawers. That's where we're at right now.